just to ensure that we identify those things that require immediate attention. And once we have done that, then we come now to the GBV itself. Screen and look for sexually transmitted diseases, especially HIV and hepatitis, because these may become difficult to manage here. And of course, prevent pregnancy. And at the end of it, or then document whatever we can document, including the forensic aspect of it, so that then we can bring these cases to the interface with the law. In our approach to people that have been sexually abused, we would want you, the prosecution, to understand one thing. And most of the times, and many a time when I do go to court, when I'm presenting about the historical aspect of GBV, what happens is that I'm stopped and said, no, doc, can you just go into telling us whether this is consistent with the alleged circumstances or not? But GBV as it is must be looked at from a very different perspective. Number one, historical aspect of it must be taken into consideration as part of evidence, because 90% of the time, these cases do come to us beyond the stipulated time, and sometimes we will not even be able to find any physical evidence. The historical aspect of it gives us that evidence that we are looking into it. And it is the historical aspect of GBV that then directs our attention to examination. And as we examine these patients, we must understand that we must do multi-method examination. This multi-method examination does help us to now be able to say that, yes, we have found the evidence, or the evidence is not there. And of course, we must use other things to help us. And in the recent past, I'm talking about 10 years to now, we now are able to use magnification and lighting aspects such as the corposcope. Before 10 years ago, we never had anything of this sort. Then we had the first one, and of course it starts from Lusaka at the University Teaching Hospital. And then progressively, we've now have these equipment quite in a number of places, especially on the northern aspect. I'm talking about Northwestern Province, Luapula, Northern, Muchinga, Copperbelt, and Central provinces. But of course, even the other 4 provinces that have left out, they do have in selected areas. We must also have specialized examination techniques. And of course, at the end of the day, a collection of forensic material. Again, in the last 2 years, a lot of developments have occurred in this country, in that we now have our own forensic laboratory here in Lusaka, based at the Levi Mwanawasa Medical University, where a good job in terms of forensic is being done. Now, I think my presentation has been changed. Somebody has brought in. So did you project what I had edited all this? Did you project what I gave? Because I was only given 20 minutes, so I compressed it to 20 minutes. So while they are sorting out that, I think I'll continue considering time. When it comes to issues of medical examination, in medical examination itself, then following a successive historical prompt, then we use that as a basis for focusing our physical examination. And in physical examination, we look for features that corroborate the survivor's story, that is the historical aspect I've talked about, and provide an alternative explanation for the presenting complaint. So ours is not just to believe with what has been presented to us, but to try and challenge what has been presented to us with physical findings and of course usage of other techniques that help us to identify this. We then identify complications if there are any, and then manage them accordingly. We use the history and examination to focus and direct towards the forensic aspect of it. And once we've done that, then we document all these things together in a manner that supports legal action. Our examination is tailored into two broad categories, what we refer to as acute and non-acute. Acute in the first 72 hours, because the first 72 hours, we are sure that we'll be able to get substantial forensic evidence. Whereas beyond 72 hours, the forensic evidence begin to deteriorate quite rapidly, and we may not get anything beyond that. So our forensic goal is to provide an independent reconstruct of events in the question. And this reconstruct must be accurate, objective, scientifically sound, and evidence-based. By evidence-based, in science, it has to be reproducible so that it is not just by chance. And the gold standard that we are using at the moment is the deoxyribonucleic acid polymerase chain reaction, for short DNA PCR. This is what we are using as a gold standard. Why? Because it can give us contact and we will be able to positively identify a positive ID. Now, in this country, yeah, that's the correct one. In this country, we we have two type of two type of forensics that we are using. We are using the DNA PCR or the crime light, which is a lighter version, and then also we are using fingerprints, the biometric technology. These we've used it quite successfully, and I think later on my colleague will come and discuss the forensics in more detail. Yesterday he was telling me that more invasions have been done, and I think this is music to our eyes. The success about the forensic aspect here is that there's been this willingness by the leadership to ensure that we use it in gender-based crimes. And this is what is going to be key going forward beyond now. However, you must remember that we are living in a country that is third world, so we're a little bit lag with our colleagues elsewhere. So at the moment, these facilities are readily available here in Lusaka, whereas just less than 30 kilometers north of Lusaka in Chibombo, it becomes very difficult to access these facilities. And so accessibility has become a very big challenge. And then, of course, we do not have many people trained, especially from the medical aspect, in collecting accurately without contamination this evidence. And I think this is a challenge that we can easily overcome. And of course, the other thing is that, yes, we'll be able to do the DNA analysis, but are we able to hit? We do not have a bank yet. So this is when we are establishing a bank. And I think, again, a lot has happened in the last 2 years to do this. This, therefore, gives us a challenge of lack of easy accessibility, lack of manpower to adequately manage this, and of course, our people are not aware. In this country, what happens is that when there's a crime, everybody wants to put their hands there, not understanding that they've contaminated the evidence and it becomes difficult to isolate and see who the actual perpetrator is. It has been very difficult to try and educate our colleagues from Zambia Police Service. At least now they've learned that they should never do an examination now they are able to understand that they shouldn't do that, because doing so has a number of challenges: contamination, re-traumatization. So these must be removed. We therefore think that we need to have increased accessibility. The country is compact, quite small. Even though we only have one center in Lusaka, we need to ensure that we have emissaries to bring these samples to Lusaka in good time and be able to be analyzed. And of course, ensure that we have a bank. In the last 2 years, what has happened is that the actual communication that we, the medics, give to the law enforcers has changed. We had a challenge in the past. I think the 1958 form, ZP Form 32, was quite limiting. We haven't done a good job, but at least we have done something that is helpful. And now we have developed a new form, which was gazetted last year in July. It is working quite well. And this form is now incorporating all issues that must have interface between the medics and the law. And this form also is now is a little bit more flexible, unlike in the past where we had this form only signed by a doctor. Now in this country, again, you see that doctors are not readily available in country. They are more concentrated centrally in Lusaka and spaced out as we go outside the country. So we've now taken advantages of certain statutes, like the Act number 24 of 2009, which is the Health Professions Act, which replaced the Medical Council Act, and also Act number 10 of 2019, which is the Nurses and Midwifery Act, which replaced the others. These two acts are able to allow other players to come in and sign the ZP Form 32. So these are now not limited to doctors, but has broadened the span. So for you, the legal minds, I probably can say check section 8.2 of Act number 24 and section, I think it's section 10.1 of Act number 19. Now, this form, although not adequate, it gives us a lot of information which we did not have in the past. And this information ranges from the social demographics of the survivor or the victim to those that take care of them, to the details of the person that first made an arrest, and also strives to give details of the injuries with a full detail of examination. Now, most prosecutors here, if you ask them, they'll tell you that before this, doctors only used to write one phrase. And I'm sure everyone who has prosecuted a GBC will tell you that it was just either absent hymen or nothing at all. And it was very, very difficult to go to court and prove your case. It was very difficult. But with this development now, we are able to do a number of things. And there are certain mandatory tests that have been embedded within this form, and these mandatory issues have been quite helpful. The challenge that we have had now is to have these non-medical practitioners to be able to understand that they can also fill in this form. Believe you me, most of us medical people do not like coming to court. We instantly develop a tongue tie and will not be able to express ourselves. The other thing is that it also brings within itself pictorial aspect. brings within it pictorial aspect, so that as they examine, they must also indicate on a pictogram what they have done, over and above the photographic evidence that is collected through the colposcope and or any other Polaroid camera. And then the doctor or whoever it is that signs it does a small summary, so that they can now give what their findings are, positive or negative, and answer to a particular section which talks about, which gives them an instruction to examine. I think it's section B. So they answer it in section I, and then they give their opinion. Beyond that, then they sign it in full. So for us, I think this is where we end, and usually then we begin waiting to be called to the courts of law to come and testify. And when we do that, then we go back to our work. But what is key is that at least now we are able to communicate in a manner that is quite standardized. The biggest challenge at the moment is that we do not have adequate number of medical personnel that have been trained. And obviously, through these interactions, I am sure we are going to have more that will be trained, so that we can have fewer and fewer cases being mishandled because evidence was not properly documented. Um, I thank you all for your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mansa, for that insightful presentation. Our next presenter is Mr. Tom Ngululu. Mr. Ngululu is the current National Coordinator for Child Protection in the Zambia Police. He is a well-equipped professional, armed with a Bachelor of Laws degree, and is currently a candidate for a Master of Laws in Human Rights Law. His foundational background includes a diploma in human resources and a diploma in gender studies. These underline his robust expertise in human rights and gender issues. Mr. Ngululu.
Thank you very much, moderator. And I'm going to ride on the protocol already established. Thank you very much. I will not agree more than what Dr. Mwanza has stated, that the most, people that are affected with gender-based violence in our society are definitely women and children. Um, this is obviously due to our cultural orientation. Men, are taught that they've got more power than women. And obviously, this encourages issues of gender-based violence. Thank you very much. We may proceed. I can control my presentation, right? Okay, so this is the outline of my presentation. I'll do a brief introduction, and then we'll look at the objectives and the functions of Zambia Police Service in combating gender-based violence, and the duties of the Zambia Police Service to assist. And also, I'll talk about medical evidence and briefly talk about the measures to address, the challenges that are associated with the medical evidence that Dr. Mans has been talking about. And also, I'll talk about some of the limitations that we have seen in the ZP Form 32, and now the revised ZP Form, the ZP Form 32B, and now the revised ZP Form 32. And then I'll summarize and then conclude. Okay. So a medical legal form, or a medical report, if you like, is critical in criminal prosecution of criminal offenses. Now, it is an official document where health practitioners record and document findings after medical examination. Now, this document is useful also in cases where physical evidence can't substantiate a claim of sexual assault. Yeah, so in objectives, I'm going to explore the role of the Zambia Police Service in the fight against GBV and state the challenges associated with the document as I've stated. And then I'll explain the limitations and highlight the measures taken. So what are the functions of the Zambia Police Service? As most of you prosecutor may be aware, um, the Zambia Police drives its mandate from the Constitution under Article 193(2) of the Constitution of Zambia and provides the following functions. Number one, to protect life and property, to preserve peace and maintain law and order, ensure the security of the people, to detect and prevent crime, to uphold the Bill of Rights, and to foster and promote good relations with the defense forces, other security services and members of society, as well as perform other functions as may be prescribed. Okay. So then, what are the functions of Zambia Police Service in combating GBV? So, arising from the functions that I've highlighted, Zambia Police has an express mandate to investigate all forms of abuse, which includes SGBV and other crimes that may affect society. So police officers are mandated to issue the medical form, which Dr. Mons has been talking about, to all victims of crimes where necessary for evidence correction. So as police officers, they have, or we have a duty to assist. This includes, the assistance includes issuing a medical form which should be free. There should be no association of payment whatsoever, be that the police station or at the hospital where necessary. This is for the purposes of medical, for purposes of evidence correction. Now, medical evidence is very important in establishing key elements of an offense, the nature and extent of injuries, and provides supportive evidence to an allegation that has been brought before the police. Medical evidence is obtained from a medical form, ZP Form 32. Now, this is a gazetted document printed and stocked by government stores and issued by police officers to a victim, parent, guardian, or next friend in a case of child victims or mentally challenged persons, or requesting a health practitioner to examine the named victim and to report if findings are consistent or inconsistent with the alleged circumstances. Okay, now, of course, like Dr. Mansa stated, there has been challenges insofar as the ZP Form 32 is concerned. It has evolved over time. Now, in 2009, Zambia Police Service improvised what I may call a supplementary form to comprehensively document findings on sexual offenses. Now, the form was revised and gazetted to provide for documentation of victims and details of the next of kin, examiner, and person present during the examination. Now, this document allowed examiners to document external and internal examinations conducted during medical examination. Now, this document I'm talking about was then called ZP Form 32B. Now, the ZP Form 32B allowed examiners to conduct other examinations such as HIV, STIs, and other tests that may be relevant to the allegation, and also allowed examiners to illustrate their findings through pictograms like Dr. Mwanza has been showing us here. So clearly, it amplified the eligibility of health practitioners to sign it, hence reducing the backlog and allowing for speed access to justice. So that is the Gazette notice that then, allowed the use of the form that we are talking about. It's unfortunate my picture is not very, very clear. So this is a document that allowed the existence of ZP Form 32B. And so the other picture, this is the old medical form which Dr. Mwans has been talking about, which actually did not have detail. This document was simply, requiring the doctor to write whether the allegations are consistent or inconsistent. So it was really giving us a lot of problems, when adducing evidence before court. So what were the limitations now? The limitations that we discovered and saw in the document I'm talking about. So this document had no date, and it had no signature of issuing officer. It has no provision for signature of the issuing officer. It restricted persons present during examinations to clinical personnel only, and was perceived by police officers to focus on examinations of sexual offenses only. So this was a perception by police officers, because the emphasis was that then was that okay, obviously this document, because of the pictures that was put on the document, it was specifically for sexual offenses only. So this was a perception, but not the true picture of what was happening on the ground in some of our police stations. So it demanded certification, and had unclear diagrams. Its gazette notice revised the very medical report form it was gazetting. So these were some of the challenges that we saw, on the ZP form 32B. So we proceeded and thought that I think we should work, and try to correct those inconsistencies or limitations that were on that document, and stakeholders, as it were were called and were brought to the fore to ensure that we developed a medical form that was going to answer, to the challenges that we had to do with SGBV cases and other offenses that were brought to the police station. So this is the form I was talking about, the ZP form 32B, which actually had some of the challenges. As you can see, the pictures were not very clear. And so it did not actually answer the challenges that the police were concerned about. So what are the measures? What measures did we take to correct these challenges that were associated with the ZP Form 32? So, like I stated, we held consultative talks with key stakeholders, which included the National Prosecutions Authority, the Judiciary, the Ministry of Health, Legal Aid Board, among others. The Inspector General of Police, signed the Z notice, now authorizing the use of the revised document I'm talking about. And so the ZP Form 32 then was printed and distributed in all the 10 provinces. Now the diagrams this time were drawn very clearly. The ZP Form 32 was given a 90-day transition period, after which it would no longer be in use. I hope prosecutors are aware about this provision in the Gazette notice, that the ZP Form 32B now can no longer be used, because the transition period expired, I think, sometime last year in December. So as such, if you come across a defense that is strict with the detail, you're going to have a lot of challenges in adducing the document as evidence, because the Gazette notice stated clearly that this document actually cannot be used after the 90-day window period. So the new document had included the date and name, signature of a police officer issuing the medical form, had relaxed the restriction to clinical personnel being present during examination. Anyone present, if anyone can be present if the victim authorizes as such. And the document had removed the requirement of certification. It included examiners to allow other health practitioners, like Dr. Mansa stated, to sign the medical form. And this was necessitated by the amendment of the Health Professions Act number 24 of 2009. So examiners can now express their opinion in relation to the allegation or complaint. I'm being reminded that time is up. Okay, so this is the document I'm talking about, that now has clear pictures, and so this one is not giving us any problems. This is the same document Dr. Mans was showing. Yes, in summary, I would say the Zambia, the ZP Form 32 is a key piece of evidence in investigations and prosecutions. It links medical findings to legal arguments, helping to establish facts, support the victim's claims, and potentially corroborate evidence, which is essential in achieving justice. I'll conclude by saying that my presentation obviously outlined the role of the Zambia Police Service in combating GBV, and has also outlined the challenges that were associated with the two medical forms and measures which were put in place to address the challenges. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ngululu, for that informative presentation. Our next presenter is Ms. Linda Chambers from Public Prosecution Services of Northern Ireland. Ms. Chambers is a seasoned barrister with a distinguished career spanning over 2 decades. Notably, she served as victim and witness lead in 2019 and was instrumental as the Gillen Implementation Policy lead, overseeing the implementation of recommendations from the Gillen Review on serious sexual offenses. Since January 2023, she has also been the Sexual Offences Policy Lead, and she currently works within the Serious Crime Unit of the Public Prosecution Service, preparing serious sexual offenses and murder cases for trial. Ms. Chambers.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. In the interest of time, I stand on the protocols already observed and thank you sincerely for the invitation to address you today. This presentation will focus on the forensic medical examinations held at the Sexual Assault Referral Centre in Northern Ireland. The Rowan is a welcoming yet secure building placed within the grounds of a local hospital and surrounded by trees. It is designed to be secure yet welcoming, offering reassurance to those who need it. It is the regional sexual assault referral centre for all of Northern Ireland, which is the country where I work and I live. I have been a public prosecutor since 2005, so longer than I care to remember, and currently work in the Serious Crime Unit, which deals with all murders and all serious sexual assaults within Northern Ireland. That's a term which I'm not fond of. Safe to say that if you require a forensic medical examination, your case will come to my unit. All complainants of rape and sexual assault, past and present, can attend for support and examination. The Rowan is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It is available to children, young people, women, and men. At the Rowan, complainants or victims will be met by a specially trained doctor. If wanted, a police officer from the Rape Care Unit will also be present to assist in a supportive, non-threatening manner. The Rowan can securely store forensic material for up to 7 years. This allows adult attendees to take the time to decide whether they wish to report the incident to the police at that time. They have been through a very traumatic incident, and they may need time to absorb what has happened and to deal with the consequences. They may not be ready to proceed at that time, but they will be later. Medical staff will explain all the options so that the complainant can feel in control of what is happening to them. Respect and dignity are essential elements of the process. Those attending may self-refer, be reported by police, be reported by friends or family, or by professionals such as their local doctor or counselling services which they have sought. In some cases, they may be referred before they are ready due to a piece of legislation we have in my country under the Criminal Law Act of 1967. And in those circumstances, samples can be taken, and if they are ready to go through the criminal justice process at a later time, that can be facilitated. The need for emergency contraception will be assessed and provided if required and wanted. If there is a possibility of an infection of HIV, a course of treatment will be administered to minimize the risk. Any other sexually transmitted diseases identified will be diagnosed and treated. The Rowan can also provide emotional support, help in reporting to police, and referral to counselling or other support services they may require. Follow-up support is also provided. So, how may someone access the Rowan? First of all, they make a phone call. This phone call will be triaged by the attending nurse who receives it. If the incident has recently happened and forensic samples can be taken, and in the case of rape, this could be up to 7 days after the incident, this call will be considered acute in nature, and they will be invited to the SARC to undergo forensic medical examination. If the window to collect forensic samples has passed, they will be categorized as non-acute. However, medical and sexual health screening will be completed if wanted to provide appropriate support and reassurance. When advice is sought, appropriate signposting to helpful support will be given. They may be referred to a sexual offences legal advisor, which is a relatively new initiative in my country. Since 2021, the victims of serious sexual offences can avail of independent, free legal advice to help them navigate the criminal justice system and understand their place within it. Where a forensic medical examination is appropriate, advice will be given to maintain the integrity and possibility of a forensic sample. Complainants will be advised to refrain from washing, shaving, and in the case of oral rape, brushing their teeth or eating and drinking. This is the area where a forensic medical examination will be carried out at the Rowan. It has to be quite a sterile space to maintain the integrity of the sample and rule out cross-contamination. This allows the evidence to be presented to the court with confidence. The doctor or nurse will be reassuringly close and observe via a camera on the screen, which you can see in the photograph. It's a setup similar to that used in many other medical procedures, and so will be familiar to many who attend. A strict cleaning routine is maintained, which again protects the integrity of the evidence and rules out the possibility that it has been contaminated from another source. The sexual assault evidence collection kits come to the centre in a sturdy sealed box. Inside each kit, it is sealed to make sure that no contamination can occur, and crucially, that the defence cannot suggest that it has occurred. While taking the sample, pro forma medical history forms and examination forms are completed. Afterwards, the samples are kept securely and clearly marked so that they cannot be confused with others. Every time they are moved to a secure location, this is documented. so that the continuity cannot be challenged successfully. The defence cannot suggest that the samples have been mixed up or tampered with. The Rowan has safe and comfortable waiting areas, which can be used both before and after the forensic medical examination. After examination, complainants are given a pack of toiletries, which is donated by local charities, and in some cases, a change of clothing, which helps them begin to move on. They are allowed to take their time to get ready and to do so at every stage. The process is defined and maintained at all stages. Protection of the evidence is vital. To ensure this, the line of continuity is carefully documented. The possibility of contamination is removed at every stage, while the complainant is made to feel part of the process. It is a consistent practice, so limiting the chance of a successful defence challenge of the evidence. The same equipment is used each time and the same notes format is followed. All paperwork is documented accurately and added to the police file. All medical histories taken and extraneous notes are preserved to prevent a suggestion of mistake and to fulfill any disclosure obligations. The process followed is therefore clear, and the results of the forensic analysis of the sample persuasive evidence which can be presented before the court. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. I hope that this has been a useful insight into how we deal with this process in my small country, and I very much enjoyed hearing how it is dealt with elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Chambers, for that presentation. Last but not the least, we have Ms. Bomba Mayondi. Ms. Mayondi is from the United Nations Population Fund. With over 20 years of dedicated experience, Bomba is a prominent gender equality expert specializing in gender-based violence, child protection, and youth and adolescent programming. As a trainer of trainers, Bomba significantly contributed to gender and GBV training, women's empowerment, and participation. Currently, they are making impactful strides with the United Nations Population Fund in championing the empowerment and emancipation of women and girls across various contexts. Ms. Wamba, please.
Good morning. I'll ride on all the protocols that have already been observed. I am deeply humbled and honored to be here. I know that we have a lot of our extremely prominent and learned colleagues. So I don't know about Womba being prominent, but I'm here. I'll try my best to not be boring. And also, I'll try my best to ensure that we are not depressed, because gender-based violence, just by its nature, is a very depressing vice that we really need to work together to eliminate. So with the 10 minutes, I'll try my best to just do what I can, which I think will be useful for us, looking at what our conference stands for, and we'll leave the rest of the information with you people, and you can refer to it as we proceed. So let's just go to the first slide. Thank you. Before we look at definitions, I just wanted to highlight the fact that GBV exists in several forms, in several fashions, in several spheres. So the physical one is the most dominant one that we might see. where there's the beating, the assault, and all that array of GBV. We also have SGBV. In our context, we just use one umbrella term as Zambia for GBV. But I know in other jurisdictions, there are different terminologies used, but to describe the same thing. Um, there's been a lot of concern of late, which I thought for the purposes of our gathering, at least we should get a bit of information. The technology facilitated GBV, very advanced in other jurisdictions like the Republic of South Africa, like Kenya, like Rwanda. Here, maybe we don't see much of it because not many people are reporting, but there's a lot of cyber crimes going on and targeted more again at women and girls, and more so at female prominent figures, female politicians, and female CEOs. Many times you see a lot of GBV online that is targeted at them. So I thought we should just have that in mind. I won't go too much into definitions, but I want to say that generally speaking, from a theoretical standpoint, sex and gender are two very different terminologies. Sex we know about, it's about our chromosomes, it's about being man or woman, being female, and so on. And ordinarily, it is what for the way our context is configured, we would say it is what you are assigned at birth. When we talk about gender, it will definitely be different in different contexts. But for our context here in Zambia, I wanted to bring the issue of power and how that males appear to have more power in certain contexts than females. In few contexts, definitely, females will have more power than males. So GBV as a construct, gender as a construct, has a very inherent um, definition in the power struggles and the power relations. And it is indeed a social construct that is determined by time and space. I think all of us have drunk this act. We forced it down your throat several years ago. We are still doing it now. The Anti-GBV Act number 1 of 2011. I know many of us who followed the legal reform in this country. The draft bill was a bill for many, many years, and we started as the Domestic Violence Act, and it evolved into the Anti-Gender Based Violence Act. So this is how the definition of GBV is rendered: any physical, mental, socio-economic abuse against a person because of that person's gender. So that's why I wanted to start from the definitive form of what gender is, so that we really understand that it's got to do a lot with our socialization, it's got to do a lot with our behavior, and it's got to do a lot with our perception. I won't dwell much on these other definitions, but I wanted to state that social norms, gender norms have a lot of undercurrents in how GBV manifests itself. And this is like the driving force and driving principle around why we have, even to this day, I think it must have been on Friday or Thursday, we may have seen this. A medical doctor was killed by her husband in South Africa. And this is not a case that is uncommon here in our country. So we see that every day there are manifestations, but they are inherent